Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, just what do the lazy days of summer hold for the Flyers? Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. Join Lance Green and SteelFlyers as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And as always, I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And Lance, my friend, how are you, sir? How you been doing? What's going on? How's it going, brother?
I'm all right. I'm ready to talk some Flyers hockey. Not a whole lot has gone on this past week, but there's still some good talking points and some things that I think the Flyers still need to address. So.
Oh, and trust me, are you kidding? You guys are talking about the Batman and Robin here, a Flyers podcast. We will find something to talk about. And we got a lot of things to talk about for sure. And we'd like to thank you all for joining us here at the Hockey Writers Ink. Where we are a Philadelphia Flyers-based podcast and show. We talk exclusively about the Philadelphia Flyers and all of its affiliates, such as the Phantoms and or Reading Royals and or such. So let's dive right in, shall we, sir? I think quite appropriate for the time of year we're in. What do you think?
Right.
Okay. I mean, for those of you that swim or for those of you that are in the July period, so that's where we're at. So go, folks. Episode number 133. Just what do lazy days of summer hold for the Flyers? And Lance, there might be some lazy days of summer. I'll grant you that, right? Everybody's kind of like in the full swing of their vacations and holidays and, whatever you want to call it. But back here on Earth, we still like to talk about hockey, right? And so let's talk a little bit about some Flyers hockey, shall we?
Sure.
Okay. One of the things that did happen this past week, and one of the things that, Lance, you tweeted out that I very much, we both very much like the fact that Alex Gendron was able to sign his entry-level contract for 3 years. And Lance, talk to me, sir, about this wonderful move. We both feel wonderful move for Danny Briere to bring this young, talented player into the fold.
Yeah, I mean, smart play. I think, it's another guy that the Flyers can now have in their system. And Alexis Gendron, I mean, QMJHL, great player last season, really exploded in a sense. 19 years old right now. He's a right wing. As I said, the Flyers are loaded down with right wingers right now, but he can also play a bit of center. In 63 games last season, he split time with two teams in the Q last year. He was traded midseason, but he scored 55 goals, 26 assists for 81 points.
Say that again.
All right, 55 goals. 26 assists for 81 points in 63 games played in the regular season last year. That's 1.28 points per game.
Ooh.
All right. He was also a plus 28 if I looked at that right.
My.
Very, very good. Very, high level production for a guy that was drafted so late. 2022, 7th round pick here, and he's already exploded coming out of the Q, and even in the playoffs, he did that much better. 13 games played, 14 goals in 13 games, 5 assists for 19 points in 13 games for a 1.46 points per game average. Now that's the Q. It's a little bit more opened up, a little less physical than some of the other leagues.
Yeah,
maybe
still
the USHL and some others, but still no slouch. Definitely has put out some of the best talent ever coming out into the NHL line. So Alexis Gendron is a name that you need to watch out for with the Phantoms next season. I think he plays a full season there next season. But
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have some different guys joining him, perhaps, as well, and that's what I kind of like to see is in that same aspect. I really want to see some other fresh faces in this minor league system. I preached about how the Flyers need to get away from signing back the same prospects, the same career AHL guys to fill the
Right.
roster.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is where a team should bring all their prospects in once signed and really get them playing under one roof together so that when the time comes when one of them gets called up, they should be playing the same system that they are in the big club, and they should be called up and be able to jump into the NHL, no problems, know the system, know the guys already because they've already spent time with them when they were in the AHL levels. Okay, but another guy I looked to hopefully be there is John Randall Avon. All right, it's a guy the Flyers signed outright, undrafted free agent a few years back. He's a center by nature. I think he can play a little bit of wing too, but 6 foot tall, 183 pounds. The Flyers just signed him to recently, not fairly recently, into the end of the 25-26 season. All right, he's 20 years old now. They signed him, I believe, last season. If you know thought process goes back there. But he tied his career high in goals last year in the OHL for the Peterborough Petes. Matched 29 goals the season prior, 21-22 year, and he had 29 goals again this season. He had 60 points in 59 games, so he's over a point per game player. Went very deep with the Peterborough Petes, winning the OHL championship this year for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to that. Yeah.
So great sense there as well. 15 points in 23 playoff games this past season, so not too shabby. Definitely a guy that showed some promise last year, even in camp. So I'm interested to see him. And another guy I'm really interested to see what he can do is Samu Tumala. All
Yeah.
right, I
Yeah.
really want to see what Tumala
Oh,
does.
that wasn't quite the
Uh,
name I thought you were going to say,
well,
but
we'll get to some others here in a second, but Tumala is a guy who has really been working with Sammy Kapanen and some others. Foreign guys, some of the same Finnish players that really get a hang of the North American game, trying to help convert him to be able to come over and play. He's 20 years old, a right winger again, 5'11", 195 pounds, got some size to him, weight wise, of course.
a thick
2021,
5'11".
right? 2021 second round pick, of course. He was the
Yeah,
first
buddy.
first person we took that year. And I don't know. We'll see what he can do. He played a little bit in the Liga last year, but he spent some time down in the minor leagues. But he had 46 points in 29 games played in the minor leagues over there. He didn't have any points in the Liga last year. Spent 2 games with the Phantoms in 2020. 21-22 season before getting shipped back over and playing in the Liga. So he's kind of been bounced around a lot, but he had a decent season last year, and he looked stronger to me in camp. So that's another name I would say look out for. Some other guys I would expect to be signed next, maybe not right away this season, but would be I like Ethan Sampson. He's there. I hope to see him come around. And Alex Bump, I expect him to be signed. He had a great camp as well. But Ethan Sampson is a right-hand shot defender who I do really like.
And
Um,
we both think that Bump is probably at least another year out.
I think so. I think he'll be signed after this next season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we shall see. Ethan Sampson is signed, but it's a guy I hope that will come. Now he's 19 years old, so he could potentially play one more year
Yeah.
in juniors. But I mean, he scored 60 points in 60 games as a defenseman for the Prince George Cougars. So I'm really kind of questioning on why he would go back at this point. Uh,
Yeah, but
he's a point per game player in the juniors for a defenseman. He's a right-hand shot that could help the Helgi Granzes and stuff like that at the Phantoms level this
yeah,
season.
that's exactly what I was thinking too. Yeah.
So that's just a couple of names I want to see there. Then you take a look at some of the guys that could possibly make the NHL roster that have already been playing at the AHL
Well, there's one
roster
name that
there.
you haven't mentioned yet,
Go
right?
ahead.
I'm a little shocked that you haven't said Emile Andre.
Well, I think we spoke on him last
Yeah.
podcast as well. Yeah.
Well, the one before that, I think, is what we talked about him, right? But
Okay.
I tell you what, that's who's somebody I'm excited to see
For
come
sure.
and see how that's going to fly. Do you know what I mean? I think he's going to be one of those ones to look out for. And I also think if, depending on how the injury is with Tyson Forster,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I would like to see, we need to see the next level, right, from some of these guys that some of these names that we've rattled off. Well, we need to be able to see some of that next level. I don't think it's going to happen right away. See, and that's the other thing too, with a lot of the fact that some of the veterans have gone away, some of the older players have gone away, and some more of the more younger guys are coming in. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, see, the way I looked at it, Avon, Tumala, Sampson are guys that could potentially be on the Phantoms and maybe be brought in to make that team. Emile Andre is a lock to make the Phantoms. He's
yeah,
projected to be
yeah,
over here now, and going to play for the Phantoms at least start. I think that he could potentially fight Helgi Grans to come up to at least maybe see part of the NHL. If somebody gets hurt or towards the end of the season, actually
yeah.
come up from the Phantoms this year, because I really think a lot of people have taken a step, and others like Mason Millman, who's been here, Igor Zumala, all those guys have kind of taken a step back, or kind
Yeah,
of
see, I
treading
agree.
water in that same spot they were in. The Ronnie Attards are going to be there. He's a guy who played last season for the Phantoms. He's going to be there again. He's a guy who could be bucking to maybe get a couple of games in the NHL this year. If injury occurs or something like that. So all those guys are guys that are potentially gonna to move on and
Right.
maybe be given another chance. And some of those other players are going to be kind of taking a step back this year, because they've been given the opportunity and to flourish, and they kind of just sat on it. And
Right. Right.
so so yeah, I really like Emile Andre. I was really surprised with him at camp. I like how physical he was, trying to show the team his worth, and that he could sustain it in an NHL environment or a North American game style, rather than just a European that's usually more open ice and free flowing game. Especially when he's only 5'9", 5'10". So kudos to him. I think he'll be a welcome addition to that Phantoms defensive core, and really can't wait to see him in some games there as well. But yeah, definitely those Avons, those Tumalas, those Samsons, potentially bump after the season. That's the next crop that's coming up, now. I think the year that Emile Andre had, last season and stuff, he's set, he's primed to go there.
I'm really excited about Gendron. I'm also really I'm hoping that Elliot Deone is not hurt that terribly bad, so that
Hmm.
he won't be hindered with coming back as far as being at camp. Or I really would like to see, and he's another name that I would like to see take that next step. Do you know what I'm saying? So there it. It just seems like the Flyers are at a very huge, um, like precipice. Do you know what I mean? Because they're almost they're at the precipice of a huge amount of change that's coming, and that's already started, and it's already here, right? So that's going to culminate into what we're going to see over the next season, 2, 3, 4 seasons down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're doing right now, is they're laying this groundwork, and with doing what they probably should have been doing by bringing in these players to come and play for the Phantoms. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that's a, I'm really liking this direction of keeping it, of bringing these guys into the Phantoms, and having some of these, all these, even though they were draft picks from the previous administration, I think they're going to get a sniff, right? And then if they don't pan out, then I think they're going to be gone. You know, because there's the next crop, just like you talk about, and then not only that, but you got the Cutter Gautiers, you got the Bonks, you got the, you know, I can't even say the Mitchkoff because, well, that's 3 years away. But you see what I'm saying, though.
Potentially,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, so I think that the pipeline has improved drastically. The pipeline of talent and players coming into the Flyers now, I believe, has improved drastically from the previous administration, and I'm really liking with how things are being set up. Excuse me, with the Phantoms, and how these players that you're talking about are coming in and potentially having that. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. Here's the next crop. These are going to be the guys that are going to play for the Phantoms. They can potentially come up to the Flyers, be that call up, be on that, you know, whatever you want to call that, the Black Flag squad, or, you know, the 4 or 5 guys that are kind of stick around with the team, that
Black
Aces, with the team. Yeah, the Black Aces. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. All right, there you go. All right, I couldn't think of it. Right.
Well, I think one of those Black Aces is definitely going to be Tyson Forrester in my mind.
Yeah.
Last year he had 8 games in the NHL. I was really excited for those 8 games. I liked what I saw from him. He scored 7 points in 8 games for the Flyers. He was doing so well that they started winning games, so they sent him back down so they wouldn't mess up their draft pick status there. But but for the Phantoms last year, I mean, he had 20 goals and 48 points. So I think he could be pushing a guy like Wade Allison out there on that right wing, because let's face it, Wade Allison can't stay healthy. He is a Flyer through and through. He plays the game tough. Everybody loves the kid, but you know, I think he spent more time with me up in the press box than, you know, in a suit and tie than on the ice. So that's the past couple of seasons, really. And his injury history dates back to college as well. So a great young player, but you know, Tyson Forrester is a high pick, and you know, the Flyers are going to want to see what they can get out of him, and you know, he's going to join that. He could potentially join that, you know, great crop of young guys like Noah Cates and Owen Tippett and Farabee, and, you know, all those guys to really get it going on the offense and have a little excitement even.
You know, I have to admit, you know, it's funny that you say that. It's very funny that you say that, because I have to admit, I really am genuinely excited about the possibility of some of these guys being on the team. You know, we haven't even talked about potentially Bobby Brink.
Bobby Brink, yeah.
Right? We haven't even talked about him. We haven't even mentioned his name. Do you know what I'm saying? I also think that that's going to be a name that's going to have to be, if he's healthy, available, whatever the case is, you know what I mean? Not sure what the status is on that just yet, but if he's healthy and available, he's going to be a name, I think, that you have to, if he's on his game and doing what he needs to do and whatever the case is, that's another name that can be thrown into the ring as well. If not for the Flyers, then definitely for the Phantoms. Because I think what I meant by this whole precipice thing is that the Flyers are on this verge of having some of the group of young talent come into the Flyers and make an impact, right? The only thing is that I think they're 1 year away from that. Like, I think this year is going to be that transition year where you might win some games that people thought you weren't going to win, and you're probably going to lose some games that people thought you probably should have won.
Right. Well, I think you're right in that aspect, but I believe that Danny Briere did it right in a sense, and who he brought in. He knew
Yeah,
what
I
he
agree.
had.
Yeah,
He knew he had to get rid of people, which he did, and which he's still trying to work on. But he didn't block anybody in a sense. I mean, look at the
yeah, I'm
guys
with
he
you.
signed. He signed Ryan Poehling, who is probably going to be their fourth center.
Right.
Kind of take a certain spot there, and Hathaway. Hathaway is a
I
hard
think
nosed
that was a
guy
great, yeah.
who's they may have overpaid a little bit, but it's a character guy like Deone, or Delorier rather. I'm sorry, we're talking prospects. Delorier, who
Got a little
you know
confused there. That's okay.
Right. So who's going to be that character guy in the locker room who's been there, done it before, who plays the game physical, who plays the game the right way, but he's not going to block anybody like a Tyson Forrester. He's not going to block anybody from coming up because he's a fourth line guy. They're not going to bring up Tyson Forrester or some of these younger guys like Deone if they're going to play fourth line minutes. They'll keep them down with the Phantoms and get them top line minutes and let
You
them
might
go
as
for
well.
another year.
Yeah,
So
you might as
um,
well.
that's what I think was the beauty in what um, Briere has done this offseason. He's got rid of the guys. He's created room for others, prospects to be able to come in both. He's got rid of guys in the Phantoms level. He's gotten rid of guys in the AHL and the NHL level where he's created some holes to be won by some of these camp battles that will ensue um, with some of these prospects that are nearing readiness,
I'm
like you were
with you.
talking about. So
Yeah, I'm
I
excited.
like that. I want to see if this team's going to lose and this team's going to be a bottom feeder again while we regain some prospects and develop some guys and get some draft picks in the system. Then let's do it with youth, and that's what the teams that are good now that were bad have done.
Look at New Jersey
You
Devils.
saw the New Jersey Devils do it. You saw Buffalo do it. Look at Tage Thompson, what he's done. He he was thrown to the wolves a little bit. He developed. He played against better players, and he took off. He had the talent to be up at the NHL level. Probably not, as much as he may have been. Um, at when he first came up, but then he's gained that momentum and has flew, and flourished. So I want to see the opportunity for guys like Forrester, for you know Deone, for all these guys we talked about to maybe get a couple of games here and there throughout the season as little injuries occur, or giving guys a night off or whatever like that to save them. Um, yeah, let's do that. I want to see the Sean Couturiers. If he comes back, I want to see him rested here and there. So he's not just thrown to the wolves and made to come back. And I don't care if that costs us a game really, because we're not fighting for a playoff spot this year, guys. I mean, seriously, we just got rid of, our number one defenseman. We got rid of our top goal scorer in JVR from 2 years ago. So we're not fighting for this. We got rid of Kevin Hayes. We created spots for these kids, and that's what we need to do. We need to let them battle
Kill
it
them.
out to hit some bumps in the road, but to learn from them under Tortorella and be given the opportunity more so than just a game here and a game there. I want to
Yeah.
see a good 10, 20 game stretches of some of these young players be able to
Yeah.
come up and be able to learn.
That's something that we didn't even touch on. We haven't touched on. And that's something that it just kind of threw me here a little bit. where all these young players are coming in and all these young guys and everything, and everybody talked about how Tortorella was not a guy that would be able to coach with the young guys and all this other stuff. And I think people were a little, including me, were a little too quick to judge because I gotta be honest with you, man. I think he's going to be a great coach for these young guys. I think he's going to be a great influence on these young guys. Do you know? Look, there are a huge number, not a huge, but there's a lot of players that Tortorella has coached that will run through a brick wall for the man. Mm-hmm. Are there a handful of guys that he rubbed the wrong way? Yeah. Okay. Is he going to maybe do that again? I don't know. Has he kind of already done that already? Maybe. I think, has that happened already on this team? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We found some guys that, hey, let's bring this guy in. Oh, yeah, maybe not. Maybe he's not going to work here. And that's just the way it is. That's just the game. That's just the nature of it is. But I think that Tortorella and the system that he plays, the accountability that he demands, the physicalness of his game, how he drives the players to train, instilling that work ethic, instilling that, look, there's no team that's going to outwork us. And if you have that kind of mentality, that's going to get you some places, because that gives you a work ethic. That gives you a never say die attitude. That gives you that, you want to keep your nose dirty because you're trying to get in there and get it. That gives you that drive and that hunger. And I think that influence that Tortorella is going to have on some of these young guys, I think, is going to be a major thing that we're going to see maybe towards the end of this year and definitely starting next year.
Well, I mean, you got to think here. That's why he was kind of brought in. He's kind of brash and, everything like that, but he knows what it takes to win. He was the first U.S.-born coach to reach 500 wins. I think he's somewhere 670s right now as far as win goes.
I think he's over 700, I think.
Whatever the case, yeah, it was... Let's see. Yeah, over 700, 704 now, right? Yeah. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's won 2 Jack Adams Awards. The guy knows how to win, okay? And what he does, and I told you this before he came here, is the fact that he's going to sit here. He's going to pick out the players that he doesn't want in, the cancers. And you think about what the Flyers had. They had a losing mentality, right? In the locker room. They had a bunch of guys that have been here a long time, the Jacob Voraceks and the Claude Giroux and all that, and they got used to losing. They got used to hitting the golf course early, and they got used to being okay with it. And that is a losing mentality. That creates a losing mentality because, while they did great and they had stats of their own and, everything like that, they were losers. They did not win playoff series. They did not win championships. And that mentality fed into the younger players. And he's since come in and wiped that slate clean. He's got rid of those guys. He's got rid of those cancers in the locker room. And, the latest being a kind of Tony DeAngelo. He was overpaid. He's paid $5 million by the Flyers to be something that he really wasn't, but out of desperation that he was signed. And, I'm sorry, you got mad that you sat the last bit of the season, but your numbers weren't really there. You had some offensive numbers, but you really weren't good defensively. And you definitely didn't live up to your $5 million contract. So in essence, like, you got butthurt about your at the end of the season being sat for youth to see what they got. I don't feel you should have got that. You should have did that, really. You should have kept your mouth shut. If you played better, you wouldn't have been taken out of the loop there. How can you blame a team that's struggling, that's way out of the playoffs and fighting for a lottery pick to see what they got in the last 5-10 games of the season with the youth? I don't see it. So badmouth the team all you want, or Tortorella all you want. He's gotten rid of those cancer type players in the Pierre-Luc Dubois and all that, in Columbus, and look at his career. Where's that gone since he left Columbus, in a sense? There's a lot of players throughout John Tortorella's past that he's done this to, but he always picks out the
And he's not
cancers
done.
and manages
And he's not done.
and he's not done. And he
He's not done.
manages to get rid of them, to create a winning atmosphere with people that want to be there, that want to work hard, that want to win a championship. Not guys that are jaded by the money that's in their bank accounts already and just show up late to practice or practice lackadaisical. He had these guys come in, and they may have not been the best team out there, but they had a great start to this past season because they were in shape. For the first time in years, this team was in shape because he skated their butts off to the point that they were puking on the bench during different line shifts and stuff like that. Okay, that's old school coaching mentality, but I think that's what the Flyers needed in a sense. And I think he's grown as a coach and maybe not mouthed off so much to the press or whatever like that. But that's a tactic too that you got to realize. If his team's not doing the greatest, he's going to try to put the pressure on him in the press. And he's going to say some things to get them riled up and pissed off with him rather than dragging his players through the mud. He's going to do it to his own players, and use the media to do it and embarrass them if they need it. And like that tactic or not,
he's not afraid to do it.
It sometimes gets players a little kick in the pants and go out there and I'll show this guy, mentality. And that worked for me as a player. And hopefully it's going to work for some of these younger kids.
I don't necessarily advocate that that's how that's going to go or anything like that, but it's very much akin to what I've been saying since Tortorella was brought in here. It was very much like the '85 Bears when Ditka was brought in. It was very much like when Bill Parcells came to the Giants in the late '70s, and he basically said, "Look, man, we're going to build a championship team, and a lot of you ain't going to be here." Right? And now we're starting to see, well, he ain't here, and he ain't here, and he ain't here, and he ain't here, and he ain't here, right? And all these guys now have disappeared, right? Okay. I really think that this was maybe a good move by Briere to keep Tortorella, because I think that I really think that he was a much larger influence on getting hired than what anybody was gonna maybe admit to, because he just does not seem like a Chuck Fletcher guy.
No.
Right? Like Tortorella just doesn't come across as a Chuck Fletcher guy, right? Because Tortorella's not that kind of guy that's gonna, he's not gonna be,
obedient.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's say that. Let's go with that. Right.
He's gonna tell you what he thinks, regardless.
He's gonna march to his own drum. He ain't gonna march to your drum. He's gonna march to his own. But as long as everybody's marching to the same drum, then everybody's good. So.
Well, see, that's also why I thought that the Flyers were smart in a sense to Danny Briere and Keith Jones. I'm talking about, to give him a piece of the pie at the round table. Discussions on, because I mean, if you brought this coach in to be the coach, then he should have a say in who comes onto the team as well. At the end of the day, you're the person making the draft picks and you're the person making the trades. But let's be honest. Like, if you go out there and get a bunch of guys that don't fit his system and expect him to make miracles out of it, I don't see what you're doing. You're not doing the team any favors. Yeah, you're not setting them up for success, and you're not doing the team any favors. So I agree with that tactic of at least having him in the talks
Let him
in
buy
the
some of the
at,
groceries.
at the round table, and at least maybe he'll feel a little bit better if he gets to his say out there, because he's
Yeah,
outspoken. So, but
yeah. Let him shop for some of the groceries.
but I
What?
think but I think one of the big topics here that we haven't talked about, Steele, is the Morgan Frost debacle, right? He's the
This
last.
is one of the many topics that we haven't even discussed yet. But
Right.
yeah. Okay, go ahead. Please
Yeah.
continue on.
You know, I'm not a big proponent of this guy. He did have a lot better season this year. We talked about it before, I think, in the sense that, obviously Couturier wasn't here and Hayes had been injured the past couple of years. Maybe not so much this year, but previous years. He's gotten a lot more playing time than he probably deserves. But he did have a breakout season this year. He he had
Okay.
19 goals. He had 46 points, but he was
Yeah.
still a minus 12, and that kind of bothers me a little bit. Um, but he's a restricted free agent, and the Flyers seem to be a little bit off as far as what he wants and what they're willing to give him. So, um, where do we go from here? I don't think the Flyers have a lot of wiggle room. They have more than they did with trading some of these players, or outright buying them out, or whatnot, or having them sign elsewhere. But I don't know. I don't know what this number might be for him. This past season, I think he played for $800,000.
Eight hundred
Um,
75,000.
Whatever the case may be. But yeah, so
And it was it was it was a see it deal, right? Like, deal should have been handed out to some of the other guys, but well, hey, that's water under the bridge from another regime. He was given a play for it contract, basically.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Did Now here's what this basically boils down to: did he play well enough to earn himself a spot or a shot to make the roster? And I'll be honest with you, man. I think that the time should be moving on. I think that the ship has sailed on this. If he's a restricted free agent, if you can trade his rights or whatever you can do, try to do that, because I think he's asking for too much money, and I think that's why he hasn't been.
I
I mean,
think I don't think he's going to be able to sustain a 19 goal season,
yeah, that's kind of
especially
where I'm
if
at.
especially if Couturier comes back and is healthy and takes over that number one center, or allotted time on the ice that he does. He eats up minutes because he plays against the best players on the ice. So, and you essentially have another one of those in Noah Cates. So I think both of those guys are going to eat up a lot more minutes this year, uh, and he's not going to be able to play with the top guys. He's going to reduce probably down to a second or third line center role, and I don't know if he's still going to be able to produce that way. And I don't know if the Flyers should really pay him what he wants. I get that he wants pretty decent money because he had a pretty decent year, but I think you know locking in right now when they're so cap strapped to a player that had a career high of 5 goals before this year. um, I don't know if I would be willing to jump right back in and give this guy some halfway decent money to have him take a step back this next season.
All right, so this is kind of what I was thinking about. What I would potentially do here, if this is what if the Flyers want to do, if they want to re-sign him, I think you still sign him for 1 year, right? Like maybe like 1.5 mil or something like that, right? I don't think you give him any term. I still think you have to. I still think you want to be a little bit more limited with him, because if you just give him a little bit more money and only keep him to 1 year, then you still get an opportunity to see what he has. See, I'm trying to be positive, right? Okay. Um, but I really think there's going to be some other players that are going to game him out. And that's why I don't think that they have been so quick to sign him, because I believe that they feel the same way. I believe that, and what I mean by is they, as the Flyers, believe the same thing. I think that there's other players that are on the team that are going to game him out, that
Hmm.
are going to play better than. And why waste that money, time, effort with and a guy who might end up either a because he's only going to sign a one deal, right? So he's either going to be a healthy scratch, or what do you put him on waivers and then send him down, or what? How's that going to work? You sign a guy to a 1 year deal, and then not long after that, you put him on waivers. I mean, yeah, okay.
No, I don't think you're going to put him on waivers. I think he would be a person that is needed in a sense, but I think you need left wingers more so than even center, and that's crazy. Even though you just gave up Kevin Hayes, but I would really trade a stalemate contract for a stalemate contract and ship him to the New York Rangers. I've been saying this,
For
and
Lafreniere.
for
I'm
Alexis
down.
for
I'm so
Alexis
down.
Lafreniere. Alexis Lafreniere has seen every other restricted free agent get signed,
Yep, I'll bring him.
and
Do
brought
it.
in all kinds of different veteran players,
Yep, do it.
and he's been buried, buried by other left wingers there for the New York Rangers, and I really would like to see him come over. He's 21 years old,
Yeah.
but he's been buried by Chris Kreider and Panarin in a sense, and he can't get top 6 minutes. He would flourish. He would be an Owen Tippett in my mind if he came to Philly and played top 6 minutes for us. And he's a he's a person that could really fill in that top six, hole as a left winger. Cam Atkinson's a right winger who's having to play left wing potentially if he comes
Yeah.
back. Scott Laughton's a center who's potentially having to play left wing again this past season or this next season because we don't have any. Joel Farabee's the only true left winger besides Delorier, and Delorier is a fourth line fighter, so he's not going to play anything. You got Noah Cates, you got Poling, you got Couturier back. You could move Scott Laughton back to center, his natural position.
Yeah, you can't
Um,
forget about Atkinson too.
well, Atkinson's a right winger, so that would be my four centers right there. You would have Couturier, uh, Scott Laughton, Cates, and Poling as your center group, and then you would have Farabee and Lafreniere, as your left wingers, top six left wingers. Um,
Okay.
you know,
You still need a fourth line center.
Poling's your fourth line center.
So you only gave so we got Couturier as number
You
one
have
center.
Scott Laughton.
Scott
You
Laughton number
have
two.
Noah Cates.
Oh, Noah Cates. I'm
You
sorry.
have Poling. That's
Okay,
four.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear Noah Cates. I'm sorry. My mistake.
Yeah.
My
So
mistake.
that's
I didn't thought you said
that's
Noah
that's a
Cates.
good four centers
Yeah, that's not bad.
that are defensively sound
Yeah,
on a
pretty
rough
much all the
season
way. Yeah.
for a rough season. You're going to actually have a solid top two lines of Couturier, Farabee, Owen Tippett, Konechny, uh, Scott Laughton, and
Yeah.
Lafreniere, Noah
You
Cates.
keep throwing that Lafreniere in there.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you made that trade and you signed Lafreniere, who's only 21, who had
But
16 goals last year and 39 points playing a third line minutes rather than Morgan Frost having 19 goals and whatever points playing first line minutes. That's a big difference.
I'd
And
rather give.
Lafreniere was a first overall pick. He just hasn't been given the chance to play top line minutes here. But he's still averaged 12 goals, 19 goals, and 16 goals for 47 goals in 3 years. Time playing third line minutes.
That's
And
not
he's
bad.
so, I mean, I would rather take a chance on a younger player on a position of need, I think, because we don't even have any in the system. We don't have any left wings in the system signed right now. So besides Deone, and he's hurt. So
Yeah.
that's the only other guy that could potentially come up. Cutter Gauthier, they're trying to make a center. Alex Bump's unsigned. That's the only left wings we got in the system besides Farabee and Delorier.
And we can't even get Cutter to even come to a camp. So
Right. So that's a little questionable. I think, like I said, Lafreniere's, they're battling there too. Trade picks there. Or trade restricted free agents. Sign Lafreniere for what he wants. We have the money still left. We still have the money left over with getting rid of D'Angelo, getting rid of Provorov, getting rid of portions of Kevin Hayes' contract. We have a little bit of money left over now. I'd rather see you give it to a 21-year-old player who's a left wing in a position of need for the Flyers, and we have a more solid, defensively sound defensive core with those guys I mentioned, going down the middle. Sean Couturier is a solid, obviously he's won, year after year after year, defensive, player of the year awards and, recognition for that. And Scott Lawton's a great defensive player. Ryan Polling's a pretty good defensive player. Noah Cates. That is what we need down the middle. We can have the scoring come from the wings. I'd rather see another guy get back and help out the defense who's going to be struggling this year without a number one guy. In the essence of Cam York, hopefully developing into be that guy. So.
Exactly.
That is just a lot more smarter hockey to me. That's a lot more John Tortorella type system than having Morgan Frost that is horrible defensively. I don't like him defensively at all. So,
and see, that's the thing, and the fact that I think it speaks volumes that the Flyers have not that they haven't been able to come to an agreement with this guy. Right, because I think there's a miscommunication, or not miscommunication, but like I think they're both swimming up the same, or they're both swimming in different directions of the same river. And I think that would be a great idea to do. Would be to, if the Flyers could do this, if they could get rid of Morgan Frost to bring in Lafreniere, I would be all over that all day. I would be more than happy to give him $2-3 million a year for the next 2-3 years or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because I just don't think Morgan Frost is gonna pay out for that kind of money. I just don't think that contract's worth signing for Morgan Frost. His body of work is not.
It's sketchy.
Is right, and it just doesn't garner that kind of money. So
not yet, anyway, not yet. I want to see it for another season before I give him that kind of money.
Okay, so there you go. So what if we keep him, and then, but see, then if we keep him, he wouldn't be signed for that kind of money though, and he would want a multiple-year contract, and there's no way that that's what I think the disconnect is here. That I don't think the Flyers want to do that for multiple years.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they do. He's not physical in a sense. He's not defensively sound.
He's a minus player.
He's a minus player. He's 24 years old. He's going to be 25 next year. He wants to get paid. I can see him wanting to get paid because he's not 19, 20, 21 year anymore. He's 24. So he's wanting to make some money, and have at it, but not if I was running the Flyers, and whatever. And I think he would be signed already and made a priority earlier on if the Flyers felt that he was, a priority.
Great point. And I think that's another reason why here we are now, near the end of July, and he's still not signed. And not that I've heard anybody else come knocking either. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, he's a restricted free agent. Nobody's talked about putting a bid on him to
Or
steal him
nothing.
away.
Right.
Um,
So I mean, so I don't even think could we even remotely trade him then for him and Lafreniere? You know, because
you could trade his rights for
clearly,
sure.
yeah. But no. But what I'm saying is that the Rangers. What would the Rangers want with Frost?
Well, I mean,
If they're looking to try to not get rid of Lafreniere, what do they want with Frost?
I think that they could better use a center in that aspect, and I know we could too. But I think we got a solid core with Poling, coming in, and Scott Lawton being able to come back over to center. I think they need to use him. He's a he's a forechecker. I think he needs to be a center
I
in a
agree.
sense. So
I agree. I agree. I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, man. There's we didn't even really necessarily talk about all the things that we wanted to talk about on our list. And we were like, yeah, we'll try to keep it light and blah blah blah. And here we are. Well, so much for keeping it light, right?
right. I mean, just one more point. The Rangers after Zibanejad, center position goes downhill. They have a lot of big name wingers,
Yeah.
but and a great defensive core with Fox and Miller, who they just re-signed as a restricted free agent before Lafreniere, Lindgren, Truba. They got the defense. They got some great goaltending.
Yeah.
Um, they
Yeah.
got wingers. They need center help, and that's why I think that trade could
Okay.
work.
All right. I'll buy into that. Look, I would take Lafreniere on the Flyers all day,
And
and
he's better suited to that
I
next
agree.
crop. He's that next crop coming up. He's going to be there, at the same age group as the Gochi, Cutters and Mishkovs and everybody
And
else coming.
and I think
Upstairs.
Lafreniere is much more talented than Frost, even though he's been. I mean, how do you get a number one draft pick that has the skill and talent that he does, and you bury him? And I mean, not only do you bury him, I mean, he didn't go and play in the minors or nothing like that. He came and started playing for the Rangers right the year he was drafted.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the fact that he's still on the third line, that
I mean,
what
they got two NHL All Stars in front of them. That's why.
Oh, so there you go. You know what I mean? That makes it tough to try to, crack that one, So a change of scenery would probably be a good thing for him, and I would welcome that all day long here for the Flyers because I think that would be some scoring talent that could go a long way. It would be like winning the lottery again. you know. But here's the thing we didn't talk about, and I just want to quickly mention this. Okay, we didn't even talk about Couturier coming back. We did briefly. We didn't even talk about Cam Atkinson coming back. We did briefly. Okay, but what we haven't talked about is goaltending. Okay, now currently, right now on the depth chart, it has Carter Hart and Arison, right, listed.
Cal Peterson.
Okay, we got Cal Peterson in the trade that for the Provorov trade. We've talked about him briefly. We feel that hey, look, he's making $5 million a year, so potentially the Flyers do have a 1 and a 1B or 1A or whatever you want to call it, right? They do potentially have that tandem in Carter Hart and Peterson, right? If everything goes and the Carter Hart Canada thing goes away or it gets resolved or whatever the case is and he's not implicated, do you think that Briere makes that move?
If the interest is still there, the rumors are still there that people are looking. I think there's two or three teams looking to move goaltenders still, as we speak. But I think Carter Hart's, with his age and everything, I think he would be tops on the list for some teams that are looking for a goaltender. Um, I don't know. It's almost $9 million with Carter Hart and Cal Peterson. If they keep that, if they keep Peterson up with the Flyers, he makes
Yeah.
$5 million. Carter Hart makes just shy of 4. So that's a lot of money wrapped up in goaltenders to keep. I haven't heard them try to flip Cal Peterson because I don't think they can. I think they had to eat that a bad contract to be able to get rid of, Provorov.
Because they only have to pay for 30% of Provorov's remaining contract.
Right. So
is what that deal was. So yeah.
Right, but that's gonna be a lot for next couple of years. So, yeah, that's a lot. I'd rather see Sam be able to come up Urson with one of them. But is that a lock as an NHL backup goaltender? I mean, Carter Hart's been injured at times this past season, and his confidence is definitely been tested and wavered at times. If you keep him, if you trade him, I think you do it. I mean, I think the Flyers went out and got Carson and Yegor in net this past draft, back-to-back picks at goaltenders. So that shows that they're not really happy with their goaltending. They brought one in the trade and they drafted 2 in the same offseason. I think it's sadly an issue that needs to be addressed. I know there's a lot of Carter Hart lovers out there that maybe place him on a bit of a pedestal, but his numbers haven't lived up to the hype of him coming out of juniors and being that goalie that he was in juniors, winning every single award imaginable. So, yes, it says a lot to the defensive core that has been here, or the lack of defensive core that's been here. But I think they're playing a better team system now this past season than they were, and his numbers weren't overly any better.
And that's one of the things that Tortorella is known for,
right?
Is improving goaltender stats, because he makes guys not only defensemen, but he makes offensemen, wingers and centers, defensive responsible. Do you know what I mean? And so historically, when Tortorella's taken over teams, goaltenders have gotten better numbers and the whole 9 yards, and that just didn't happen with Carter Hart. It's kind of like that whole same thing with Frost. I mean, he played with Giroux, he played with Couturier, he played with Hayes, he played with all of the top people in Philadelphia land, and he still wasn't able to click or do anything, right? And then he gets this 1-year deal and says, all right, well, we'll pay you, $875,000, and you see what you can do. Well, of course he's gonna, game out, because he's fighting for a contract, right? So he scored 19 goals. All right, man, cool. We finally got to see, after how many times, how many tries, how many games have you played, right, for the Flyers, where we actually finally got to do something, right? Cool. Good on you. I just don't. If I was running the show, I'm like you, Lance. I agree. I would not have him.
Yeah, I mean, tear it down like they have been. Tear it down, tear it all the way down. It hasn't been working. Let's get some new blood in here. Let's get some new faces in here. I mean, Carter Hart has a career 41% win percentage. He's only won 41% of his games in the regular season. That's not NHL starter caliber. He's averaged 1 shutout a season for an NHL starting goaltender. That's not cutting the mustard. All right, you got to be able to steal games, and he hasn't. He's averaged almost
this many.
He has 5 total in his career.
And that's career, meaning professional hockey?
Flyers, NHL.
Yeah.
He had 2 last season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's not really teams.
No. I mean, he was 22, 23 and 0. So he had a losing record again this year. He is a career average 2.96 goals against average and just hovering just above a 900 save percentage. So not too great when you look at the, better goaltenders, or, sub 2.5 goals, and hitting towards 9.3 save, 93% of your saves,
Or above 925
right,
at
above
least.
925 at least,
And
and that's
winning,
backups, really. Yeah.
and a winning goaltender, because 22 and 23 and 0 is not even, that's barely half the games.
Yeah.
Right? So you only played half the year and you're making that kind of money? Okay.
He hasn't had a winning season since 1920 season, where he had a record of 24 and 13. So his career high in win totals has only been 24. That's less than half of the pace of the NHL, leaders are hitting darn near 48, 40,
yeah.
40 wins, is considered elite. He's not elite. If somebody's willing to give us multiple first round picks or a first and a second, I think you take it. And
Be stupid not to. I would take 2 seconds.
Well,
I would take a first round and a ready to go player prospect.
I would take a first and a ready to go prospect that could possibly make the NHL this year, or at some time make the NHL this year. But that's me. But
what do we know?
What do we know? I know I only played goalie for 30 plus years, but whatever.
Dude, yeah. I was being facetious, right? Okay,
I know.
I had to say that. I had to say that in jest. We spent a lot of time watching the Flyers. We spent a lot of time researching the team, and I think it helps to bring that level of factuality. Word of the day, factuality. But I think that brings that to what we're doing. You know what I mean? And one thing that we will never be one thing we'll never be accused of is lack of passion for this game, for this team. Okay, Lance, you've played it for so long, right? I never got to lace anger. You know what I mean? Like I can barely skate. Okay, so I'm not going to claim to be somebody who's ever played this game. Now, did I play other sports? Yeah, I played football for almost 14 years, right? And won state championships and all that other stuff. But so being in organized sports is the same across the board. You still get that same camaraderie, you get that same locker room, you still get that same, it's just a different sport. It's a little bit different, you know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate what you do, Lance. I really appreciate the knowledge that you bring to the Hockey Writers Ink, to the All Sports Network, you know what I'm saying? And so all the writing that you do, Lance, all those great articles that you write, man, I got to tell you something, folks. Look, I promised you guys some information the last time we had a show here, and I didn't get a chance to give it to you, but I want to just throw some stuff out there for you guys. Big, huge thank yous to you folks out there. Last month, the website hit 44,000 hits, right? 44,000 hits. Some of our shows had over 900 views. And I just want to say, and Lance, I think you can agree with me that deserves the Hockey Writers Ink salute, right? Man, we haven't done that in a long time, right? But thank you guys so very much for hitting the site and for going there and for checking us out, for reading Lance's articles, for watching the shows. Man, we really appreciate it. And look, check this out, right? If you go to the website, you can buy one of these bad boys right here. Look, check that out, right? That's a Hockey Writers Ink t-shirt, man.
A little higher.
Little higher? Yeah, so you can cover my face, right? Yeah. I get it, right? Go to the website, check that out. $25, man, plus shipping and handling. We'll send one out to you. It wears great. It washes great. You know what I mean? So it's a good deal. So, Lance, anything in the pipeline?
Yes, I'm hoping to get an article out this weekend, another prospect watch article. Another guy, I'm really starting to take a look at this next group of players coming out
Draft
in the
picks. Yep.
2024 draft.
Yep.
And Steele, I think you were right in that last comment. You do have a face for radio, so.
Of course I do.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course.
So
Excellent. Well, thank you. And
no
you
problem.
definitely have a face for TV.
I think you're lying. I think you're lying too.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Well, listen, man, I'll tell you what, this has been really awesome and really fun. And we love having you guys out here. We really appreciate what Spreaker does for us, because Spreaker gets us out there to all the podcasting platforms where you out there get to go and type in the Hockey Writers Ink and find us, and give us a 5-star rating. And that would be great. That helps to rank us. And then really appreciate y'all going to the website, SteelFlyers.com, and checking out all the articles and all the shows and all the videos we got out there for you guys, man. I really appreciate that. So thank you very much for that. Lance, why don't you tell the folks where we can find you, where we can get you?
Sure. You can catch all my articles, including the one that I did on that Alex Lafreniere piece, a couple of explaining in depth all that a couple of weeks ago on SteelFlyers.com. Yep, on SteelFlyers.com. You can also catch me on Twitter at Lance.Green39.
Awesome sauce. You can catch all the great stuff from the SteelFlyers All Sports Network at SteelFlyers.com, so go check that out. And you can check me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. And listen, hit us up, man. We don't mind questions. We don't mind, you guys want to throw some comments out there. By all means, please feel free. We love it. We're looking forward to it, and we can't wait to check you out on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink.